Hello, everybody. Welcome back to No Trailers Allowed, my movie podcast where I do not watch trailers beforehand. I'm your host, Jersh. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find more episodes at my website, superjersh.com. You can support me and get this podcast early and ad-free on patreon.com/superjersh. You can follow me on social media. There's a lot of weird social medias. I have dedicated social media on Twitter at NoTrailersPod and Instagram at NoTrailersAllowed. My main Twitter and Instagram is superjersh. If you want to follow me, I don't know, anywhere and everywhere. I don't know what to do on the internet anymore. Do people want things separated? Do you want it all in one place? I don't know, so I'm just going to talk about it all. If you want to email me to be a part of the show with your questions, comments, and suggestions, as far as like movies you would want to see me review or discuss or comment on, the email address is notrailersallowed@gmail.com. I want to welcome new patrons Samantha, Aubrey, and Labryson. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Thank you, Patreon executive producers Mirrors, Triss, I Love Manatees, Daryl, and Aaron. Thank you, legendary Patreon producer Zell Binion. On this episode, I'm going to talk about Scream. Now, is it just Scream? Is it Scream 5? Is it Scream 2022? I don't know. I've seen it titled a lot of different ways. So traditionally, I like to just dive in and talk about everything all at once. But as this is a brand new movie, I'm going to have a spoiler-free discussion and then a spoiler-filled discussion so that people can come back after they've had a chance to watch the movie. Of course, if you don't care about spoilers, then you can, listen to that part. But I will put a spoiler warning audibly. I will say it. I will put it visibly on the YouTube video, and I will put it in the show notes where the spoilers begin. So I'm very spoiler averse. The whole concept of me talking about movies is to avoid spoilers, I don't watch the trailers. I don't read the plot synopsis. I try to avoid casting news. I just want to find out that a movie is going to come out and watch it and let it reveal itself to me. So I still am yet to see the trailers for Scream. I don't know what they gave away. I don't know who they told or have announced is in the movie. So this is the spoiler-free section is going to be very brief and kind of very vague. Overall, I did enjoy this movie. I thought this was I had a really good time with it. I thought it was very well made. It did have kind of a rocky start. Some of the dialogue and character choices didn't always add up with me, but the majority of this movie I thought was very entertaining. What do I want to say from a story or plot perspective without spoiling anything? It is a Scream movie. So it is a long-running franchise going back to the 90s is when it started. And let me talk about, I guess I'll talk about my backstory kind of with my relationship with the Scream series. I think the Scream series is a lot of fun. I really enjoy the movies. The first one I thought was like super groundbreaking and, self-deprecating, self-referential to the horror genre, to the movie that it was. It was very almost like Edgar Wright's version of a horror movie where it's kind of lampoons and satirizes the thing that it is, but it also is actually a very good and effective version of the thing that it's talking about, like Shaun of the Dead or Hot Fuzz, zombie movie, action movie. It's a send-up, but it's a good entry. And like Scream kind of was that for horror films. So I love the first Scream. The second Scream was okay. I still remember like the ending and the main cast and the killers, but I couldn't tell you a lot about the kill sequences themselves. I remember Stab. That is super fun. Scream 3, I think, is probably universally agreed to be the weakest. I don't remember much about that one except for like the killer reveal and not being very satisfied there. Scream 4, which came out 10 years ago, which is insane to say, I liked a lot. I really enjoyed Scream 4. I thought it was probably my favorite after the original, even better than 2 or 3. It's funny, I enjoyed the modern cast, which is now a decade later, so it's not the modern cast anymore. So overall, I think it's a very strong series that I appreciate and enjoy quite a bit. I'm not a super fan. I don't rewatch them a lot, and I actually specifically avoided doing a series rewatch before going into the new Scream because I wanted to know, does it does it does it work on its own? Does it work if you don't remember every little single reference from the prior films? So I think it does. I think it does. I think it stands on its own and works on its own as a start to finish movie, but it of course rewards people familiar with the franchise. So now, what can I say about the story without spoiling anything? Again, I don't know what's been given away in the trailers, so I won't say a lot. I will just say that, you know, yeah, killing is back, and a group of human beings that want to stay alive have to try not to die and figure out who's trying to kill them. That's Scream. That's the new Scream movie. What I can say about the story and the plot is I like how it develops, and I like how it kind of builds. It has a very good momentum. Like I said, the beginning, the opening 15, 20 minutes or so, I'm just speaking, broadly, I was a little iffy. I wasn't really liking the characters. I was like, I don't know any of these actors. I don't know, I don't have any attachment to them. The dialogue seems like really a little bit cheesy and lame. But then, as momentum picks up and things progress and you start to realize how characters are going to be involved with each other and who is going to maybe help or not help each other to progress things forward, I really liked how things started to come together and were intertwined. And then my mind remembered that when the original Scream came out, the hot new teen cast in that movie was a bunch of unfamiliar faces that we didn't really know, that had kind of lame kid dialogue because they're kids, they're high schoolers. And I started to forgive the first 15 or 20 minutes because the rest of the movie started, to get pretty good. The characters, overall, I really liked the characters. Again, I won't say which characters are or aren't in the movie, trying to keep things vague. I will say, references to past characters that are made in this movie, I think mostly work. There's one in particular that was a little bit strange that I'll talk about in the spoiler section. But they mostly work. The new characters mostly work as well, not just as some obvious references to the film's past, but also just kind of as their own characters. It is very when I think about all of the praise that I felt about the original Scream, of how smart it was, how clever it was, how smart and clever kind of really describes that first Scream, and I think this one as well. I think there's a lot of dialogue that is said that if it were in another movie, it would be, I don't know, too on the nose, but because this is Scream, and because it was meta before meta was popularized and mined for your nostalgic money, it fits this series more than anything else, more than The Matrix, more than Ghostbusters, more than Star Wars. This film series and this Scream series really does seem to be well suited for this concept of everything in the 90s is new again. You know what I mean? Trying to bring everything back and really mind that. So yeah, most of the characters I enjoyed. I enjoyed the different perspectives. I do, again, some things happen really fast, and I don't know if this is just me getting used to and enjoying more long-form prestige television, like The Leftovers, like Mayor of Easttown, like The Queen's Gambit, where you really get to take time to learn who these characters are and what they stand for and what they're trying to achieve and what's getting in their way. And I think just movies are inherently have an inherently tougher task these days when you think about the streaming shows and the hours upon hours that people spend watching these entertainment forms, where they just kind of have to cut to the chase. Shortcuts have to be made. This is the character in 3 sentences because we have 2 hours to tell you a complete story start to finish. And thankfully, this movie does. In a world where stories never end And, movies, in a film, it's a film series that's not allowed to end, but it tells a complete story in the movie. And the characters are mostly enjoyable, make mostly very good decisions, I would say, based on the circumstances. And that's all I'll say about the characters right now. Cinematography, I really enjoyed the look of this movie. I really liked how certain characters were shot and given this kind of filmic reverence. It's like you're not, I don't know, there's a couple thoughts. It's like, number one, because movies have been around so long and humans have been alive so long and everything's been done and there's nothing original anymore, it's almost like you're not allowed to just be a movie, Like, if you have a clever bit of dialogue, if you have a one-liner, people will be like, you're just saying that because you're in a movie. Yeah, no shit. It's a movie. You know what I mean? So it's nice. It was nice to, like, see some, like, fun camera work play and to see some different... I don't want to give a lot away, but I liked the camera work in this movie. I liked how certain characters were given, again, filmic reverence is the best phrase that I can describe it, because it appreciates the history of the franchise and doesn't have to be like, let's make it real, let's make it gritty. Like, it's allowed to be a movie. And I really liked how the movie was shot. I thought it looked great. The music, it's serviceable. It's not... I've said this about past movies, the movie theme is kind of dead. Like Invisible Man is one of my favorite horror thriller movies of the last 5 or 10 years. I really love that movie. And even that movie, I said, like, there's no main theme. There's no Invisible Man theme. There's not a musical cue that you can call to. There's not a Jason Voorhees theme. There's not a Nightmare on Elm Street theme. There's not a Halloween theme. Like, where are our music themes? I want them to come back. Where is Jaws? Where is Jurassic Park? Back to the Future. Like, there's just, like, musical calls, like music, Star Wars. Music on its own can make you emotionally invested and teary-eyed and joy and everything together when it's done right on its own. And then especially when it's attached to a movie that you love, a story that you're passionate about, and characters that you enjoy and want to spend time with. So the music was serviceable for the, to do what it needed to do in the sequences that it exists in, but it's not anything that you would listen to on its own, like a John Williams score or anything like that. Speaking of sequences, the last thing that I'm going to say in the spoiler-free section before I get to spoilers is that when it's a Scream movie, when it's a horror movie, when it's a slasher movie of every kind, there are certain kind of expectations and thoughts around horror films. What is the kill count? How are the death sequences? How many people die? How many people live? Right? What the method of execution? Like there is an interest in those things in a horror movie and in a Scream movie. And I will say, in this movie, they were very satisfying for me. I really enjoyed the variety. I enjoyed the sequences in this movie that you want to watch this movie for. That's pretty much all I can say in the spoiler-free section. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I have some nitpicks. I have some things that I'll talk about. And the nitpicks that I can say in the spoiler-free section is that I didn't always love some of the character dialogue. I didn't always love some of the character choices. And some characters in this movie, that's all I'll say, because I really don't want to spoil it. I want to preserve it for you. I do recommend seeing this movie. I saw it safely. I'm double vaccinated and boosted. I still wore a mask. I saw it in the middle of the day where I think I was the only one in the theater. Maybe there were 2 other people at 5 rows away. I don't know. I was very meticulous about my planning of seeing the movie to be safe and be smart. And yeah, so if you can see it safely, I definitely recommend checking it out. I do not think it is a disappointing movie in the slightest. I think there's a lot to like here, even if it's not, exactly perfect. Did you know if you support me on patreon.com/superjersh that you can get this podcast early and ad-free? You probably didn't know that because you're listening to this promotion right now. Which means you also probably didn't know that there are dozens of hours of Patreon exclusive content over there, like full album music reactions and full movie watch-along commentaries. So head on over to patreon.com/superjersh to help the music and movie discussions continue. So this is your spoiler warning for Scream, okay? Scream 2022, potential spoilers for past Scream movies. I don't want to hold anything back when I talk in this section because I just want to share kind of my immediate kind of reaction and ideas here. So you've been warned. I told you in the spoiler-free section, I recommend you watch the movie. All right, so we're in spoilers now. Sorry if I say it too much. I just really care about it for people who enjoy this kind of stuff. What do I say? I guess since we're in the spoiler section, we'll talk about the killers first. And the killers mostly work for me. The fact that now I can actually really kind of talk about the plot. So the plot is Billy Loomis's illegitimate daughter found out that she was the daughter of a serial killer and abandoned her family, which kind of broke apart her relationship with her sister. So at the beginning of the movie, her sister gets attacked and she gets kind of called back and brought back to Woodsboro after leaving it because of the past, because of she was afraid of who she was going to become because she has visions of her serial killer father, just like Green Goblin. I mean, or, you know, and so in the moment, I liked it. I was like, okay, this is how you kind of homage that character, call back to the original, and, you know, kind of involve him because that first Scream movie and that Billy and Stu and Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard is probably like some all-time horror villains, if I'm being honest, for me. Like, I saw the first Scream like when I was a kid. I think we like rented it after it had been out for a while on home video, and I was allowed to watch it because I'm the movie kid and I can take it. And I loved it. You know, as a kid, I loved the first Scream and New Nightmare. And I still remember this feeling of not just finding out who the killer was, but finding out there were two of them. Matthew Lillard crying, bleeding out, saying my mom and dad are going to be so mad at me is one of the best things I've ever seen in a movie. Like, you know, that first one is a very special movie. Man, it's so good. And so to see the sequel now, here's what's cool about this movie, since we're in full spoiler territory, is it talks about the legacy sequel instead of a reboot. 10 years ago, when they made Scream 4, it was found footage, point of view, raw, real, reboot, forget about the original cast, we got to bring in all new faces. It was kind of commentary in the moment about how films were being made. And then this movie is now a modern commentary about how films are being made now, kind of like how The Matrix Resurrections wanted to do, but it actually fits in Scream because there has been meta, self-referential, movies within movie talk bullshit from the very beginning. From the very first Scream and to the first sequel where they literally made a movie within the movie. And they've been able to ride that all the way through the series, I think in really intelligent ways. I think if you milked that too much or relied on it too much, people would turn on the series. Nobody would want to see the Scream movie because all they do is talk about themselves and all they do is just try to be too cute for their own good. And this movie is not that. This movie, the characters were saying things that I mostly was like, yeah, that's on point. That is very aware of the world that we live in, and the fact that the characters are knowing it and saying it is kind of makes it believable that these are, you know, it's the Scream movies have kind of always been about film nerds, about movie nerds. And so, yeah, I'm kind of all over the place, but that's just because now that I'm like, I'm not afraid to spoil anything. I'm just going kind of stream of consciousness. But I've got notes. I'm trying to hit everything. So when I referenced in the spoiler-free section that there was kind of a callback to a character that I didn't think necessarily worked, it was the Billy Loomis thing. Like, I understand having I slightly understand having visions of a dad you never met and didn't know. But why is your vision of him the white shirt stabbed blood like the iconic kind of wardrobe at the end of Scream 1, how we all kind of remember seeing him at the end when he does the last jump and everything. Why do you see him like that? That doesn't make any sense. Um it also was interesting to continue sort of like the de-aging work. I don't know if that was Skeet Ulrich's voice or not. I'll have to research it. It sounded a lot like him. I almost would have preferred that he had like a secret twin brother to actually bring Skeet back, which what a strange name. We do get some of those legacy characters back. We get Nev Campbell, we get Courtney Cox, we get David Arquette. We kind of get the big three. I also feel my memory is escaping me, but I feel like the blonde sheriff who was the kid's mom that got killed in the shower. I feel like she was in the original as well, somewhere at some point. I don't know if it was just the fourth one or the first one. I think that was Dewey's partner. I'm not 100% sure. So yeah, so this idea that man, I said I was going to talk about the killers, and I literally talked about everything else. So the killers, the boyfriend, and Amber, um, which I guess going back to the beginning of the movie, it makes more sense. It definitely makes more sense now, just in hindsight thinking about it, how so they weren't even cloning. I thought when I was thinking was that the killers had to be really technologically smart because they were cloning phones and wiping power and things like that. But I guess I would need to rewatch it. I've seen it one time. I actually just got out of the theater like I don't know a couple hours ago. But I wanted to capture my thoughts and talk about it because it's going to be a while before I get a chance to see it again. But yeah, if you think about the opening sequence, it wasn't they never cloned her phone; they just worked together. There was a lot of I feel like I think maybe every Scream movie does this, where you get a big exposition dump at the end to finally explain the motivation and understand how the characters know each other and work together. It's almost like they have to do that now. But it was nice that they kind of I don't know got through that. Yeah, the Amber character I didn't really understand. I didn't really buy as much. He was a little over the top. Jack Quaid, who for my money was basically I don't know if he just is always is himself no matter what he's in, but this basically felt like the exact same character from the first season of The Boys. I have not watched season 2 yet, but I watched season 1 of The Boys, and this felt like exactly, adorkable, too good to be true boyfriend, everyday kind of Tom Hanks, Dennis Quaid kind of guy, and it just uh so his character overall I was just like, I don't know, you're just Jack Quaid. But using that and using your automatic suspicion of him was a strength of the movie. They played with it really well, where it was like, of course it's the boyfriend you don't trust, or of course he's too good to be true. Now he's been shot. Now he's been stabbed. There's all these things happening to him. He always kind of says the exact right thing to that you would want somebody who's smart in the movies to say to get out of Dodge. Like, no, we're not going to go to the party. That's where the killer is. That's crazy. And they kind of makes them walk into it himself. Like, yeah, I thought like his character and like when you think about them trying to do a sequel where they're trying to kind of redo what was done in the first movie, it has to be the boyfriend because it was the boyfriend in the first movie. So the whole reason he started dating her was to try to do this. It all kind of it adds up and makes sense, and it is really kind of fulfilling to me. But her just being again just yeah an online radicalized fan that wanted to help him kill all these people was not it wasn't as well as thought out. It would have been nice if it was kind of a two minds thing where they were both, into it together instead of just like, I don't know. Yeah. So the duality of the two killers wasn't as satisfying as it has been in the past, but the boyfriend being the killer purposefully to, homage the first, yeah, that all pretty much worked for me. So, characters. I don't know. So the way that I said that I enjoyed the structure, the way that it's structured is you get these new faces that you have no attachment to, that you don't care about. Time goes on, you start to develop connections to the ones that actually matter. It's like the big group of 6 or 7 friends, but really it comes down to like 3, like the main girl, Randy's niece and nephew twins, which I liked both of those characters as time went on throughout the movie. She, shout out to the leftovers. I couldn't put my face on it. I recognized her and I recognized Amber from something I had seen before, and I couldn't place it. I had to Google it after I was out of the movie, and she was in the leftovers. I was like, I've seen her with glasses on. Where have I seen her with glasses on? It was the leftovers. The leftovers is a great show. Watch the leftovers if you haven't already. Um, and then the girl, she played it. She played another psycho killer. Oh, now I can't say that. She played a psycho killer in another movie that she was in that I was like, oh yeah. So maybe she's being typecast as Psycho now. I don't know, but yeah, it was kind of very over the top. Then these new characters that you just start to kind of get to know, we go to Dewey. And I haven't seen David Arquette in I don't know how long. I don't know if he had retired from acting, what movies he's done. He looked a little different. I loved the dialogue line. Shitty Sam Elliott was laugh out loud hilarious. I laughed really hard at that. That was really funny. But I liked his character. It felt like the old Dewey from the last 15 to 20 years, but it felt like a more mature, grown up, has some history Dewey. And I thought David Arquette did a really wonderful job. And when he died, uh, it was really well done. You know, his not today, Dewey's always survived. You think he's going to survive this. And he fights back and he shoots them. And then, again, it uses the rules of horror movies and it uses the rules of the Scream franchise really well here, where it's like, oh yeah, we have to shoot him in the head, but I need to get you safe. And it made sense. It's like you knew, it's kind of, you had this feeling that he was doomed, but it still made sense for what he had to do in the moment. And the whole not today, yes today, and it was an honor, hinting that, you know, they understand. Just, I really loved that scene. I liked all of the pretty much all the kill sequences in this movie. We get a ton of variety: nighttime, daytime, getting characters to run to you, like the whole sheriff trying to run and save her son, and just literally waiting on the porch, knowing that she would be running full speed to save her own child and just to be there to kill her. So good. And then killing the kid, and again having fun with the camera work of you're expecting, oh, the door has just blocked out the background. Get ready for the big reveal. Nope, 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 and then dead silence, and then boom, you get them. Like, really well orchestrated sequences. I loved the kind of find my phone GPS location stuff at the end. I loved the use of technology. A lot of horror movies, kind of, you know, like The Witch or The Conjuring, they go to which The Conjuring and James Wan, not a horror movie reference that was made in this film. I think they know James Wan is too powerful and too big, and you know, he's kind of like the godfather of horror for the last 10 or 15 years. Basically, he is horror. So you can't really take a shot at James Wan. They didn't really make fun of the Conjuring series, I don't think, but they did make fun of and reference a few other stuff. But yeah, I loved the all the sequences. I loved going back to the house at the end, which again, it makes sense for this series. The opening sequence felt a little too samey. It was a little too exactly what they always do. Like, I honestly expected this movie to start with like a cell phone text or a DM to be really modern, because who owns a landline anymore? You know what I mean? Yeah, so horror references. The main character's last name is Carpenter, and they name after, I'm assuming after John Carpenter. They named a character Wes, literally after Wes Craven, and they gave him a very sweet kind of for Wes, your own title card at the end. Very respectful. The Rian Johnson Knives Out Star Wars commentary without saying Rian Johnson or Star Wars was very fun. It's like they got the guy who directed Knives Out to make the Last Stab movie, and it was totally being woke, and like everything that you complain about people complain about online about Star Wars, they kind of had a little bit of a commentary here. So yeah, it was a really good job of like having a commentary on horror films kind of in the modern age and the Scream series, and then just all movies in general. There's actually a lot of shots, and I noticed this. I've only seen the movie once, but I noticed it. There are a lot of shots in this movie that have like a black coat or a black hoodie with a light colored top, like a hat or a scarf, in different scenes in the background to make you think you're seeing Ghostface. So I'm really excited to rewatch it to see how many times they sneak that in. I also want to see how the Amber being a killer adds up because I feel like the boyfriend being the killer, Jack Quaid's character, really I think probably adds up the more and more that I think about it. How he was always there but always had the right thing to say, things like that. Um, I loved the movie inside the movie stuff. Again, other movies that have been made recently that shall not be named that like to reference and nostalgia over the first movie uh literally just show you footage of the first movie to like remember this, right? This movie, because Scream was meta ahead of its time, doesn't show you footage from the first movie. It shows you footage from the movie made in the second movie about the first movie, and it recreates it in a fun way. When Randy's niece gets attacked, and yeah, the thing that I didn't like about the first 15 or 20 minutes of the movie is like they just automatically jumped to the conclusion that one of them was the killer. And I felt like they did that because it had to be a Scream movie. Like if I'm, you know, young Jersh and I'm sitting around and there's a serial killer on the loose, I don't look at my three best friends that I hang out with after school and go through class and grow up together and my friend group. I don't look around in my friend group and say, well, one of you has to be the killer. Who fucking knows who the killer is? We don't know. You know what I mean? So like that just goes like, well, that's kind of a why are we jumping to there so fast? But it's because it's a Scream movie. Yeah, some of the exposition, like the main character Sam talking about her backstory, it just felt like exposition dump that I really felt like a little 2 minute flashback with a little bit of VO here and there would have been a lot more impactful. Um, I don't know if it was particularly scary as an adult. I've seen a lot of scary movies. I've played a lot of scary games. It's really hard to scare me. I should probably make a list and think about what movies actually scare me as an adult. But if you're like a teen or a young kid, like this movie probably will get you. I do remember when I was pretty young, but when I saw the first Scream, I was absolutely terrified through the majority of the runtime. It was like such a sigh of relief when the killers were revealed because like finally I don't have to keep wondering. You know what I mean? Like I felt more safe once the killers were revealed than when it was a mystery and it was kind of Ghostface running around. God, and okay, so when I talked about reverence for the characters, I was talking about Ghostface. I love the look of Ghostface in this movie. I love how they shot him. He's like a big time, I'm a fucking horror villain icon, bitch. Ghostface is right up there with Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers. Ghostface too. Like at first it started off as like again like almost like a satire of horror movies, like who cares who the killer is, just give him a stupid Halloween mask. And now it's like iconic and looks awesome and looks menacing and just all of the close-ups, the wide shots, the standing still, the full motion run, catching up, stabbing the athlete in the leg so that you can catch up to him. Very smart. The voice changer within the mask, you can see the red light. I just loved how Ghostface looked in this movie. The what else can I say? Dewey's death was all the sequences were really good. I did think so. Dewey dies, and then the second half of the movie takes over. Dewey dies at the midpoint. He's the kind of the big culmination halfway through the movie is his death. It was a bummer that he and Courtney Cox didn't get a few more scenes together. The movie really did kind of depend on your previous history with those characters, maybe both in the movie world and in real life. I do know that that's Yoshi. I do know that they met like on the original Scream, got married in real life, and are now divorced. I don't know if they've ever reconciled or what their current relationship status is. But in the film world of Gale and Dewey, I totally bought that they had a history, that they didn't make it, and his couple of sentences about why he gave up and was a coward, I thought was a really good example of exposition because it's something that I believed his character would say to Gale, and it told me something a little bit about where his head was at, and also why he would want to be a hero and save those kids when he had the chance in the hospital. They really nailed the Dewey character in this movie. It would have been nice to see more Nev Campbell and more Courtney Cox, but they kind of were teased in the beginning and saved to carry the back half of the movie. And uh, I liked that setup, that it was, the new characters, then hand the baton to Dewey, then hand the baton to Nev and Courtney, and let kind of the combination of the old and new bring it home. I just thought it was structured really well. Um, the commentary on fandom, I think, was on point. I think we do, as I mean, it's literally a career now to be an entertainment enthusiast. Like, you can make a living off of enjoying what other people's livings. And I guess when I say that out loud, it sounds silly, but that's kind of how always all of like human history has been. Like, even sports going back like 100 years, ever since there's been baseball commentators, there's been baseball scouts, there's been baseball managers, there's been baseball interviewers. You know what I mean? Like, things that exist allow other things to exist. So because films exist, film criticism can exist, and I think that's okay. I think that's a good thing. But it was this kind of, talking about how far people take it and how serious people take it, where, real life and real relationships are always what should matter the most. And some people lose sight of that. I personally myself have maybe even lost sight of that at 1 to 2 times in my life. But thankfully, I have realized that movies and music and games, although I enjoy them very much, pale in comparison to the importance of the real life relationships that I have and maintain, both for my son and other people in my life. So the ending taking place at the original house, I loved how that was revealed. It's like I kind of had an inkling that that's what was being teased and that's what was happening. And then when she actually says, "Oh no, you need to get out of that house," like, purposely, because that's what the film wanted you to know, I realized that was the house, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. So the killers, they announce themselves, they get the tables turned, and they die, and the Sam Carpenter, the main character, who has serial killer blood in her, gets to unleash that on her boyfriend killer, Billy Loomis surrogate. And she is the one who is given the famous Ghostface knife clean. I don't think Ghostface actually does that in this movie. She did it, which I thought was really fun. There's not much more to say. I really liked this movie. And I'll say again, if this is your first time listening, don't watch movie trailers. I shudder to think what was given away in the trailer. I will probably watch it after recording this. But everything, you're much more invested when you are as blank a slate possible going in. The characters get to reveal themselves, the plot gets to reveal themselves, the locations, it just did a really good job of being its own thing, referencing the past, and this is kind of, if a movie is gonna get a sequel from the '90s, I'm glad it was Scream. I'm glad they did. I never watched the Scream series, but I'm curious where the franchise goes from here, and I'm curious what other people think about this movie when you get a chance to see it. If you see it in the movie theaters, if you want to wait till it's home on streaming or to rent it, that's fine. Let me know your thoughts either in the comments or email me, NoTrailersAllowed@gmail.com. I want to know what people thought about this movie. Of course, very spoiler averse around here, so please keep them spoiler free without a very healthy spoiler warning. I would really appreciate it. That is going to do it for this episode of No Trailers Allowed. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can find more episodes on my website, superjersh.com. You can get this podcast early and ad-free by supporting me on patreon.com/superjersh. I'm on Twitter @NoTrailersPod. I am on Instagram @NoTrailersAllowed. Email me to be a part of the conversation with your questions, comments, or suggestions. NoTrailersAllowed@gmail.com. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe to the YouTube. The YouTube is in the show notes. Rate and review the podcast feeds. We're on Spotify. We're on iTunes. Help amplify the voice if you are enjoying it and want to see more, because the internet is a very crowded place. As always, thank you for listening or watching. Until next time.